Hey everybody, it's Dawn here, and I am your Friday sub filling in for Chelsea, also known as CheggyX, here on Our Pagan Opinions. Hi! Okay, this week's question. First of all, I have to explain I am on my phone because I'm on holiday, and I don't have much technology with me, so I will make this quick and to the point. And because it's Friday, you probably are already familiar with the question at hand. And so the question this week is, should parents of teens provide birth control for their teenagers? And do you think this promotes promiscuity or safe sex? And what kind of message do you think this sends? I like the very last part of that question the best, because in my opinion, it's all about communication. Now, Charlie, earlier this week, explained in better detail than I will here all about the difference in parenting styles. And so if you haven't watched that video yet, watch it and then come back. But she did a really good job of explaining how different parenting styles work and probably what the easiest approach is as a parent in talking with your kid. And I believe that communication with your children is key in all of these aspects. This is a very difficult conversation to have with your teenager, and I am of the opinion that any difficult conversation you're going to have with your kid is probably one worth having. Now, having said that, I want to just explain a little bit about my background and where I'm coming from. If you've watched my personal channel, Follow Your Bliss, you probably know that I am a teen parent. Okay, not exactly a teen parent, but once a teen parent, always a teen parent. I had my first kid when I was 16 years old. And I believe that it was a very hard thing for me to do. I wasn't ready. I was not ready to be a kid. I was not ready to have a kid, rather. I was trying to be a kid. And so I think that growing up in the house that I grew up in, sex was a really taboo subject. It was not talked about. It was not. It was never discussed. And not only that, but there were different expectations that were placed on us as kids that, I think as Charlie explained, I grew up in a very authoritarian household. And I didn't really know who I was at 16 years old. And I think that anybody at 16 who is thinking about having a kid should not do it, because it will impact your life in ways that you may not be ready for. So, okay, so having said all of that, I also have 4 teenagers. I have 2 kids that are in their 20s, 4 teenagers, and 1 7-year-old between my partner and I. So my daughter who's holding the camera is looking at me like, wow, where did we get so many kids from? But it's true. We have 7 kids between the 2 of us. And these conversations are conversations that I've had a couple of times with, if not at least all the teenagers and the older ones at one point in time, at least once at one point in time. So here's my opinion. I think that parents who give their children birth control are probably smart. I think that it's really hard to be a teen, number one, because you're going through all of these weird things as it is, with self-esteem, with family issues, with whatever, peer pressure at school. And then aside from all of that, you also have all of the internal things going on with your hormones raging. And if someone would have come along and said, you know what, you're going to experience these weird feelings, you're going to have some really crazy ideas, but guess what, it's completely normal, I probably would have been like, oh, okay. But instead, I didn't have anybody that I could talk to about these things, and so it was really a crazy time for me personally. And I think that happens more often than not with a lot of kids. Now, the other thing is that as a parent, as a pagan parent, I want to approach this from a pagan perspective, which is that if you aren't talking to your kids already about sex or healthy sexuality or human development in general, I think that there are many opportunities for you to do so if you are pagan. Simply just thinking about the wheel of the year. If you celebrate the holidays, the 8 pagan holidays, every time you do so, you have a great opportunity to approach the subject of human development, of healthy sexuality. Think about it. You have Beltane, which is all about the great right, the union of man and woman to procreate and fertility and everything, even all the way through to, you know, Lammas, the harvest, Yule, even Samhain, which is death and rebirth. So I think that part of being human is the fact that we have these normal urges and we are sexual creatures, and I think that by celebrating these holidays, you have an easy opportunity to talk to your kids about what those healthy developmental issues are. I realize that not every pagan celebrates the pagan holidays, but just think about it in terms of celebrating the seasons and the cycles of life. You know, this is part of human development, and it is a good opportunity to, you know, at least 8 times a year, talk to your kid about human development and the cycles of life. So, kids, if you are in a situation where you feel like you have no one to talk to, you can't talk to your parents because they don't understand you, or maybe there's just no one there that you can trust to get your questions answered about birth control or whatever, I strongly encourage you to try to talk to your parent first and foremost. But if you can't, I think that what you should do is find a trusted advisor, someone at your school, maybe the school nurse, maybe your pediatrician, maybe your family doctor. I don't want to bring Planned Parenthood into it because it's so controversial, but by all means, if that's the only place you have to go to get your questions answered, go for it. I don't think that there's anything wrong or promiscuous about taking control of your reproductive health, and knowing that what you experience as far as sexual desires or sexual urges is normal. I just think that in our culture, I think that promiscuity is a huge symptom of the W.A.S.P culture. And if we focus less on promiscuity and a little bit more on empowering our teens and our kids, I think that we would be better off. Unfortunately for us, our society does absolutely nothing to support us in that. We have media sexualizes our children, and if you don't believe me, watch an episode of Toddlers and Tiaras, and you'll see what I mean. And then, you know, we have the kids shows, not the kids shows, but the teen parent shows on MTV and VH1, and music and movies and all that stuff. You know, it does promote promiscuity in a way, but I don't think that there is. This is my mom.
Let me get out of the picture. I had no idea you were doing video.
It's okay. We won't cut it out. It's all good.
I thought it was a very frank conversation with the children.
See? We do that here. Okay, so MTV, VH1, we have all these shows about teen pregnancy and teen parenting that kind of almost glamorizes the lifestyle, and I think it's unfortunate because it was nothing like what they talk about. For me, anyway, it was nothing like what they talk about in the shows. It was very hard. I had to go to school, I had to have a job, I was raising a kid, and I was still trying to figure out who the hell I was at the age of 16. And it's not a very glamorous thing. I'm not saying that my daughter was a mistake or having my daughter was a mistake. I strongly believe she came into my life at exactly the right time, and I wouldn't change it for the world. However, I just was not prepared for the consequences of my actions, and my actions being taking unhealthy risks with my sexuality. So, back to the whole thing about empowering our kids. How do we empower our teenagers? Well, if you're just starting now to empower your kids when they are teens, you have a lot of catching up to do, because I believe that empowering your kids starts long before birth, before the birth of that child, and it really starts with yourself. And just knowing who you are and being strong and secure in your own identity before you go out and have kids. And then, if you are a parent or looking to have children and you want resources for empowering your kids, there are so many resources out there. First of all, a couple that have helped me in my life, Love and Logic Parenting, and there is a link. It's called loveandlogicparenting.com or .org, I'm not sure which, but it's a method of parenting that encourages parents to talk to their children early on and encourage their children to make simple, small mistakes early on, so that as they grow older, instead of forgetting to drop something in the mail for mom or dad, instead of crashing the car or becoming a teen parent, they're doing smaller mistakes, things that they've already learned consequence and responsibility and all of that stuff. So Love and Logic Parenting is an excellent resource. There's another group out there. It's called Strengthening Families, and there's so many different initiatives and things that they are involved in, and it's really Strengthening Families is I want to say, what is the word? It's non-denominational. It has nothing to do with religion at all. It has nothing to do with faith or anything like that. It is a social group that, instead of focusing on child abuse prevention, they're switching the language around, and we are focusing on strengthening families instead, because, and this is what I believe, and it resonates with me very strongly, is that those words that we focus on are those that we tend to invite into our lives. So again, by focusing on promiscuity, we're probably inviting promiscuity into our lives. However, if we're focusing on empowering our kids, we're probably going to have more empowered kids in our lives. So anyway, for what it's worth, I think that providing your kids with birth control is a very personal choice, and one that is based on your family values and strong communication between you and your family and family members. And if you're struggling with it, just know that there are resources available so that you can have those conversations and get the resources that you need to help you along in your journey that we call life. And the other thing that I want to say is that for me and my teens, my kids, the choice to provide them with birth control is one that was, not taken lightly. It was based on our family values. It was lots of discussion, lots of things. But from where I'm coming from as a pagan parent, or as just a common sense parent, is that, I just wanted to let my children know. I hope that the message that I'm sending to them is that, I care about you and I love you so much that I want to not only provide you with the knowledge and the tools that you need in order to live your best life, but also the resources necessary to do so. So, so that's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it, at least for now. So thank you for watching, and I will see you again shortly. Blessed be.